I still remember the feeling of my hands shaking as I stuffed my clothes into that old duffel bag, tears blurring my vision. At 17, I never thought my own family would choose to believe lies over the daughter they claimed to love. The worst part was not just being kicked out of my home, but knowing that Madison, my stepsister, had carefully destroyed everything I held dear with her web of false rumors. I could not understand how years of love and trust could crumble so easily because of one person's jealousy. Before I continue this story, I want to know where you are watching from, so please drop a comment below. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because what I am about to share will show you how sometimes our greatest pain can lead to our most incredible triumphs. This journey changed everything I believed about family trust and my own strength. My childhood had been far from perfect, but it was filled with love. After my mother passed away from cancer when I was 8 years old, my father, Mark, became both parents to me. He was a dedicated electrical engineer who worked long hours but always made time for homework help, bedtime stories, and weekend pancake breakfasts. We had developed a rhythm, a bond that felt unbreakable. When I turned 14, Mark met Catherine at a work conference. She was a widow with a 19-year-old daughter named Madison. Catherine seemed like a godsend during those first months. She cooked elaborate dinners, helped me shop for school clothes, and even taught me how to braid my hair in intricate patterns. I remember feeling grateful that Dad had found someone who could fill the maternal void in our lives. Madison initially kept her distance, which I understood. She was already in college studying business administration while working part-time at an upscale beauty salon downtown. She had this effortless beauty with long auburn hair and striking green eyes that made heads turn wherever she went. I admired her sophistication and hoped we might become the sisters I had always wanted. The wedding was small but beautiful, held in our backyard under string lights that Dad had hung between the oak trees. I wore a pale yellow dress and felt genuinely happy seeing Dad smile in a way I had not witnessed since Mom's passing. Catherine promised to love and care for both of us, and Madison even hugged me during the reception, whispering that she was excited to have a little sister. The first year of our blended family felt like a dream come true. Catherine maintained her nurturing presence, always asking about my day and ensuring I felt included in family decisions. She enrolled us both in cooking classes, where we learned to make everything from soufflés to homemade pasta. Dad seemed more relaxed than he had been in years. However, subtle changes began during my sophomore year of high school. Madison started making offhand comments about my appearance, suggesting I needed better skincare products or more fashionable clothes. At first, I thought she was trying to help, but her tone carried an edge that made me uncomfortable. She would roll her eyes when I spoke during family dinners or interrupt me mid-sentence to change the subject. The first real incident happened on a Saturday afternoon. Madison accused me of taking her expensive silver ring, the one her late father had given her for her 16th birthday. She created such a dramatic scene, crying and insisting she had left it on the bathroom counter. Catherine immediately began searching my room, while Dad stood looking devastated. The ring was eventually found in Madison's own jewelry box, but instead of apologizing, she claimed I must have put it back after she caught me with it. Dad and Catherine wanted to believe it was an innocent misunderstanding. They brushed it off as sibling confusion, but I saw something calculating in Madison's eyes that chilled me. She had enjoyed watching me squirm, had relished the moment when doubt crept into Dad's expression. That night, I lay awake wondering if I had imagined the malice I thought I detected. The second year brought escalation that I could never have anticipated. Madison's accusations became more frequent and more serious. She claimed I was using her expensive makeup without permission, leaving her room messy and borrowing her clothes without asking. Each time she presented her case with tears and apparent hurt, while I found myself constantly defending actions I had never taken. Catherine's attitude toward me shifted gradually but unmistakably. Where once she had been warm and inclusive, she became distant and watchful. She stopped asking about my day and began questioning my whereabouts. The cooking classes ended abruptly when she said she was too busy with work. I felt like I was losing my family piece by piece, but I could not understand why. At school, Madison began spreading rumors among the students who knew we were related. She told people I had sticky fingers, that things went missing whenever I was around. She was smart about it, never making direct accusations, but planting seeds of doubt. My social circle, which had never been large, began shrinking as friends started acting awkward around me. My grades, which had always been solid A's and B's, began slipping as the stress took its toll. Dad noticed and expressed disappointment, wondering aloud if I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. The irony was painful, since I was spending most of my time alone, afraid to invite friends over, because Madison might create another scene. The situation reached a new level of seriousness when Catherine's $500 in cash disappeared from the kitchen counter. She had left the money there to pay a contractor who was supposed to fix our leaking roof. When the repairman arrived and she went to get the cash, it was gone. Madison immediately pointed out that only family members had been home that morning, and she had been at her salon job since 6 a.m. I had been home studying in my room with headphones on, completely unaware that money was even sitting downstairs. But I had no way to prove my innocence. The money never turned up, and the atmosphere in our house became suffocating. Dad looked at me differently after that, with suspicion and disappointment that broke my heart. Madison escalated her campaign by creating false evidence of my supposed moral failings. She showed Catherine photoshopped images that appeared to show me at parties with alcohol and cigarettes. She fabricated text message conversations that made it look like I was involved with multiple boys and engaging in risky behaviors. The technology was convincing enough that Catherine believed every word. Dad found himself caught between his daughter and his new wife. I could see the internal struggle in his eyes during family meetings where Madison would present her latest evidence of my corruption. He wanted to believe me, but the proof seemed overwhelming. Catherine pushed him to take action, arguing that my behavior was influencing her daughter negatively and disrupting their household. The final accusations were the most devastating. Madison claimed I had threatened her, saying that if she did not give me money for drugs, I would make her life miserable. She said I had become dangerous and unpredictable. She produced a recording that sounded like my voice making these threats, though I knew I had never spoken those words. I begged Dad to believe me, to remember the daughter he had raised, but doubt had taken root too deeply. Catherine demanded he choose between his troubled daughter and the stability of his new marriage. The pressure became unbearable for everyone involved. The night that changed everything started like any other evening. Dad and Catherine had gone to a dinner party at his colleague's house, while Madison claimed she was working late at the salon. I was home alone, grateful for the peaceful atmosphere to work on a history paper that was due Monday morning. When they returned around 11 p.m., Catherine's scream pierced the quiet house. The living room had been ransacked. Couch cushions were thrown everywhere. Dad's collection of vintage books was scattered across the floor, and Catherine's precious antique vase, a wedding gift from her grandmother, lay shattered near the fireplace. Madison arrived home 20 minutes later, apparently having left work early because she felt sick. When she saw the destruction, She broke down, completely sobbing that I had finally crossed the line. Through her tears, she told a story that painted me as a dangerous teenager who had brought friends over to trash the house when no one was around. According to Madison, I had confronted her before she left for work, demanding money for what she called my drug habit. She claimed I had threatened to destroy everything Catherine loved if she did not start giving me cash regularly. The destruction of the living room was supposedly my way of proving I was serious about my threats. I tried desperately to explain that I had been in my room the entire evening, that I had witnesses who could verify I was alone, because I had been video chatting with my friend Emma while working on homework. But Madison was prepared for that too. She suggested I could have easily arranged the destruction before my video call, or that my friends might lie for me. Dad exploded with a rage I had never seen before. Years of accumulated doubt and frustration poured out as he accused me of betraying everything he had tried to teach me. He said I had disrespected Catherine, endangered Madison, and turned their home into a place of fear and chaos. Catherine stood behind him, crying, but nodding in agreement. The decision was swift and final. I had until morning to pack my belongings and leave. Dad said he could not have me in the house anymore, that I was a danger to the family he was trying to build. No amount of pleading or promises would change his mind. At 17, I was being cast out of the only home I had ever known. That night, I barely slept, throwing clothes and personal items into 2 duffel bags while processing the reality of my situation. I had less than $200 in savings, no job, and nowhere to go. The girl who had once felt so secure and loved was about to become homeless because of lies she could not disprove. Emma's family let me stay for a week, but their small apartment could not accommodate a long-term guest. Emma's mother was kind but firm, explaining that they simply did not have the resources to support another teenager indefinitely. I understood, but it did not make the rejection hurt any less. The homeless shelter for teenagers was located in the roughest part of downtown. The building was old and overcrowded with strict rules about curfews, possessions, and behavior. I shared a room with 3 other girls each with their own story of family breakdown and abandonment. The experience was eye-opening and humbling. Without a stable address, continuing at my high school became impossible. The administrators were sympathetic but could not bend the district's residency requirements. I watched my former classmates move forward with their junior year while I struggled to figure out how to survive each day. Mrs. Rodriguez, who owned a small bakery near the shelter, became my lifeline. She hired me to help with the early morning prep work, arriving at 4 a.m. to mix dough and prepare pastries for the breakfast rush. The work was physically demanding, but gave me purpose and a small income. In the evenings, I found cleaning jobs at office buildings, pushing a vacuum and emptying trash cans, while office workers finished their day. The combination of both jobs barely covered my basic needs, but it kept me off the streets and gave me hope for something better. Mrs. Rodriguez treated me like the daughter she had never had. She shared stories of her own difficult youth in Mexico and her journey to building a successful business in America. She encouraged me to pursue my general education development certificate, even offering to adjust my work schedule so I could attend classes. The GED program met at the community center 3 nights a week. I was usually exhausted after working 2 jobs, but I forced myself to attend every session. The other students came from various backgrounds, but we shared a common determination to overcome our circumstances through education. Earning my GED at 18 felt like the first real victory in my new life. Mrs. Rodriguez celebrated by giving me a small bonus and a day off, which I spent researching college options and financial aid. The path seemed impossible, but I had learned not to let obstacles defeat me before I tried. Community college became my bridge to a better future. I qualified for maximum financial aid as an independent student with virtually no income. The courses were challenging after being out of school for over a year, but I approached each assignment with desperate determination. My favorite class was Introduction to Business, taught by Professor Martinez, who had built several successful companies before transitioning to teaching. She recognized something in me and began mentoring me outside of class hours. She taught me about marketing strategy, financial planning, and the importance of networking in business success. During my second year, Professor Martinez helped me secure an internship at a local startup that created marketing solutions for small businesses. The company was small enough that I got hands-on experience with every aspect of their operations, from client meetings to campaign development to financial analysis. The startup's founder, Jake Morrison, was impressed with my work ethic and natural instinct for understanding what customers wanted. He offered me a part-time position while I finished my associate degree, and I eagerly accepted. The job provided better income than my previous work and introduced me to the world of digital marketing. After graduating from community college with highest honors, I transferred to the state university to pursue a bachelor's degree in marketing and finance. The transition was smooth because my community college credits transferred completely, and my academic performance had earned me additional scholarship money. University life was different from community college. The campus was larger, the students younger, and the social dynamics more complex. I felt older and more focused than many of my classmates, but I used that maturity to excel academically while building professional connections through business clubs and networking events. My internship experience helped me land a job as a junior marketing manager at a mid-sized technology firm immediately after graduation. The salary was more money than I had ever imagined having, and I celebrated by moving into my first real apartment and calling Mrs. Rodriguez to thank her for believing in me. The technology company was an ideal place to learn and grow. I worked on marketing campaigns for software products, analyzed customer data to identify trends, and collaborated with sales teams to develop strategies that increased revenue. My supervisor noticed my analytical skills and promoted me to senior marketing manager within 18 months. Success built upon success as I gained confidence and expertise. I began speaking at industry conferences, writing articles for marketing publications, and developing a reputation as someone who could help businesses grow through innovative marketing strategies. The idea for my own company emerged from frustration with how difficult it was for small businesses to access quality marketing support. Most agencies focused on large corporations with huge budgets, leaving small business owners to struggle with inadequate marketing efforts. I spent months developing a business plan for a marketing consultancy that would specialize in helping small businesses compete effectively against larger competitors. The plan included affordable service packages, educational resources, and technology tools designed specifically for businesses with limited marketing budgets. Starting the company required every dollar of savings I had accumulated, plus a small business loan that took months to secure. I worked evenings and weekends building the business while maintaining my day job, surviving on very little sleep but tremendous excitement about the future I was creating. The first year was incredibly challenging. I handled everything myself, from client acquisition to campaign execution to bookkeeping. There were moments when I questioned whether I had made a mistake, leaving the security of employment, but I persisted because I believed in my vision. By the second year, word-of-mouth referrals were bringing in more clients than I could handle alone. I hired my first employee, then a second, and gradually built a team of talented professionals who shared my commitment to helping small businesses succeed. The breakthrough came during my third year, when a client's success story was featured in a national business magazine. The article highlighted how my marketing strategies had helped a struggling restaurant become the most popular dining destination in their city. The publicity brought inquiries from businesses across the country. Within 5 years, my company had grown to 25 employees and was generating over $2 million in annual revenue. We had helped hundreds of small businesses achieve growth they never thought possible, and I felt proud of the positive impact we were making in communities nationwide. The networking event at the Grand Plaza Hotel was supposed to be just another opportunity to meet potential clients and industry colleagues. I wore my favorite navy blue business suit and carried the confidence that comes from knowing you have built something meaningful from nothing. I was standing near the registration table reviewing the attendee list when I heard a familiar voice behind me. The sound sent chills down my spine because I had not heard it in over 8 years. I turned slowly and found myself looking at Madison, who was working the hotel's reception desk. Her appearance had changed dramatically. The confident, beautiful young woman I remembered looked tired and worn down. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the hotel's standard uniform with little attention to style. When our eyes met, her face went completely white. I watched her hands shake as she recognized me, clearly struggling to process what she was seeing. Here was the girl she had destroyed, standing in an expensive hotel, wearing designer clothes and exuding success. The contrast between my transformation and her apparent stagnation was stark and undeniable. Before either of us could speak, I heard my father's laugh from across the lobby. Dad and Catherine were entering the hotel, dressed elegantly for what appeared to be a special anniversary celebration. They looked older, but happy, completely unaware of the drama unfolding at the reception desk. Madison panicked when she saw her mother and stepfather approaching. She whispered urgently for me not to say anything, promising she would explain everything if I would just leave quietly. But I had waited 8 years for this moment, and I was not going to run away again. When Dad saw me, his expression went through several stages of shock, confusion, and disbelief. Catherine looked like she had seen a ghost. The three of us stood there in awkward silence while hotel guests moved around us, completely unaware of the family drama playing out in their midst. I spoke first, my voice calm and steady, despite the emotional turmoil inside. I greeted them politely and mentioned that I was attending the business networking event. Dad's eyes took in my professional appearance, the confident way I carried myself, and the expensive briefcase in my hand. Madison could not handle the pressure of the situation. In front of her mother and stepfather, with hotel guests and co-workers watching, she broke down completely. Through sobs and gasping breaths, she confessed that everything she had told them about me years ago had been lies. She admitted to stealing Catherine's money, staging the destruction of the living room, and creating false evidence of my supposed bad behavior. She revealed how jealous she had been of Dad's love for me and how she had systematically destroyed our relationship because she wanted Catherine to have Dad's complete attention. The truth poured out of her like a dam bursting. She confessed to photoshopping images, faking text messages, and even using voice manipulation software to create the recording of me supposedly making threats. Every piece of evidence they had used to justify throwing me out had been carefully fabricated. Dad stood frozen as the full scope of Madison's deception became clear. 8 years of believing he had failed as a father, 8 years of wondering what had gone wrong with his beloved daughter, suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. Catherine was speechless, realizing that she had chosen to believe her daughter's lies over an innocent teenager's truth. The weight of that decision and its consequences was written across her face as she looked at the successful woman I had become despite their betrayal. I felt surprisingly calm as the truth finally emerged. The anger and hurt I had carried for years seemed to evaporate, replaced by something closer to pity for the people who had allowed fear and manipulation to destroy their family. Dad tried to apologize, his voice breaking, as he asked how he could ever make amends for such a terrible mistake. Catherine stood silently crying, unable to find words for the magnitude of their failure. Madison collapsed into a chair, finally freed from the burden of maintaining her lies, but devastated by their exposure. I told them that while I appreciated the confession, I had moved beyond needing their approval or validation. The hardships they had put me through had made me stronger and more determined than I ever would have been in a comfortable life. I had built something meaningful from nothing, and that achievement belonged entirely to me. The conversation was brief because I had a networking event to attend and a business to run. I left them to process the truth and its implications while I focused on the future I was continuing to build. For the first time in 8 years, I felt completely free from the weight of their rejection. That evening, back in my apartment overlooking the city skyline, I reflected on the strange turn of events. The family that had thrown me away was struggling with ordinary lives while I had created extraordinary success from their abandonment. Justice had taken an unexpected form. I thought about Mrs. Rodriguez, who had seen potential in a desperate teenager and given her a chance to prove herself. I thought about Professor Martinez, who had taught me that education could be a ladder out of any situation. I thought about every person who had helped me along the way, while my own family had given up on me. The next morning, I called the shelter where I had once lived and arranged to fund a scholarship program for teenagers aging out of foster care or facing homelessness. If my pain could be transformed into opportunity for others, then perhaps everything I had endured had served a greater purpose. Dad called several times over the following weeks, wanting to rebuild our relationship and make amends for the years we had lost. I was not ready for that conversation yet, but I did not rule it out completely. Forgiveness, I learned, could be a process rather than a single decision. Madison sent a long letter, apologizing for destroying my teenage years and acknowledging that her jealousy had hurt everyone involved. She was attending therapy and trying to understand why she had been so threatened by a family's love. Her letter showed genuine remorse, though it could not undo the damage. What struck me most about the whole experience was how the worst thing that had ever happened to me had ultimately become the foundation of my greatest achievements. Being forced to survive on my own had taught me resilience, independence, and determination that I never would have developed in a comfortable family environment. The business continued growing, and I found deep satisfaction in helping other entrepreneurs overcome obstacles and achieve their dreams. Every client success felt like proof that setbacks could be transformed into comebacks with enough persistence and strategic thinking. I also became a mentor to young women facing difficult circumstances, sharing my story at conferences and workshops for teenagers in foster care or homeless situations. If my experience could inspire even one person to keep fighting for their dreams, then the pain had been worthwhile. Looking back now, I understand that some betrayals, however devastating they feel at the time, can actually redirect us toward better destinations than we ever could have imagined. The family that rejected me had inadvertently set me free to become someone extraordinary. Have you ever had to overcome a situation where people you trusted completely betrayed that trust? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And please remember to hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Do not forget to subscribe and share this video with anyone who might need to hear that their current struggles could be the foundation of their future success. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you the strength to transform any challenges you are facing into stepping stones toward your own incredible achievements.